Hello crafty friends, I'm Lien from Studio Cato and I'm so glad you're joining me again today. Today I am back with another post for Reverse Confetti and I used this adorable The Bear Up There stamp set with the open drop cover panel from the latest release. And I also made a galaxy ink smooshed background, which you'll have to wait a little bit for, but it's a really fun and easy way to create a galaxy. Now I'm stamping all three of the bears from the stamp set onto Clairefontaine DCP 250 GSM cardstock with the My Favorite Things extreme black ink. This is alcohol marker friendly ink, which is perfect because that's what I'm coloring with today. I'm not showing all of the coloring process today because it's quite a little bit of coloring, but it's also quite repetitive, so I didn't see the point in it. I colored all three bears the same way, going from dark to light, and I shaded them pretty much the same as well. Now for their little snouts, I always use more of a yellow or a creamy brown, so it's not as dark as the rest of the bears, and I give it a little bit of depth by adding shading on the left side of the snout as well, on the inside of the snout and the outside of the snout. So you have the impression that the snout goes a little bit forward as well. I had quite a bit of trouble blending these stars because my yellow marker doesn't want to blend with the oranges I used. For some reason, they're not that far apart in color or in shade, but I spent ages blending this together, going over it and over it and over it, and in the end, I just gave up. It's not a perfect blend, but it also isn't that noticeable because I added a bit of shimmer to it as well. Spoiler alert. For the clouds, I just added some shading with two pale blue markers, and then I blended that out with a colorless blender to blend it into the white. And for the rainbow, you only have 3 arches in this image, but I made it 6 colors. So I blended yellow and orange together in the bottom arch. Then in the middle arch, I blended pink and purple together. Now it's my first time with alcohol markers trying to do a color combination that goes outside of the color family, if that makes sense. So this was an adventure, but it worked out in the end. On the final arch, I used some blue and green. Now this is my ink smooshed panel, and I already did the first layer before I remembered turning on my camera. So you will see me put on additional layers. But this is what it looks like now, and it's the same process over and over again. Now for that first layer, I added in some purple. I'm not doing that for the second layer. I just press on some ink cubes onto a slick surface. Mine just happens to be a laminated piece of white cardstock, which is perfect for inky techniques like this. And once I dabbed on the ink from the ink cubes, I sprayed it with some water and then I just pressed my cardstock in it. I then heat set the panel in between each layer and I just do it a couple more times. I used the Pinkfresh Studio inks for this, and I will list all the colors I used in the description below. Now my goal was to go from a teal to a really dark blue, and I often like to deepen up my blues a little bit more with purple. That's why I added purple in the first layer of this ink smoosh background. And now I'm also adding on some splatter for some additional detail and depth. I used my darkest shade, which I always do for splatter, and also my lightest shade. I just pressed the ink cube onto my laminated sheet of white cardstock and then sprayed it with some additional water and splattered it on. Now this panel was quite warped from all the heat setting and all the water I added to it, so I adhered this with double-sided adhesive. I haven't used double-sided adhesive in a while, but for things like this, it's perfect. I also cut it a little bit smaller than A2 size. It doesn't need to cover my entire card, and this just makes it easier to just center everything and make sure that none of it is peeking out of the sides. So I just adhered that on with the double-sided adhesive, and then I have my open drop cover panel confetti cuts by Reverse Confetti. I just cut that out of thick white cardstock and I put a bunch of foam tape behind it to prop that up as well. I did the same for the bears basically. I fussy cut them out. Matching dies are available, but you know me, I love my fussy cutting. And I adhered those onto my panel with, or onto my card rather, also with foam tape. And I put 3 layers of foam tape on the parts that would be on the open drop. And I added 1 layer of foam tape on the parts that would be over the white. Now I have these gold stars left over from another card. These are just die cut with a slimline die out of gold cardstock, gold mirror cardstock. And I didn't end up using all of the stars on my previous project. So I figured I'd use them as embellishments on this card. If I hadn't had these stars cut out, I would have added some gold or maybe silver splatter to add some stars to this night sky, but this is a perfect way to add stars to your galaxy. I'm adhering those with the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and I'm using my jewel picker to pick them up and place them on top of the glue. For a matching envelope, I'm being lazy again. I happen to have a bunch of galaxy pattern paper, so I figured I would use it for this card. I folded an A2 sized envelope out of this with my We Are Memory Keepers 123 punch board. I reinforced the score lines with my bone folder and then adhered it together with more of that Barely Art Precision Craft glue. Now I debated also white heat embossing one of the bears on the front of this envelope as well, but I just didn't want to take away from the pattern paper. It's so pretty. And I also didn't know which bear to use. So it's just a pattern paper envelope, and honestly, that's fine. I really like how this turned out. I also added some shimmer to the stars, the clouds, and the rainbow. I hope you saw that on camera. I just used the Wink of Stella clear brush pen. I love how this card turned out. I love these bears by Reverse Confetti, and I really like that open drop cover panel from the latest release. It's just such a unique shape, and it's meant for Christmas cards, I guess, because it was part of a Christmas release, but I think it really works all year round. It's just such a fun shape to work with. I hope you like it too, and I hope you like that easy ink smushed galaxy in the background. And if you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up on this video and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Now, if you stuck all the way to the end, I have a spoiler for you. I will have another ink smushing video also for Reverse Confetti tomorrow, so I hope you stay tuned for that. Now, in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.